Hello and welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Nelson Liu. As 2019 draws to a close and the beloved Christmas holiday is approaching, there's never been a better time to look back at the stories that have made the year what it is. These stories have brought us the highs and lows, victories and failures that have hit home to us in the past 12 months. Tonight we bring you part 3 in our wrap-up of 2019 series, finishing the year with a montage on some of the biggest stories that we've covered this year.
Recommendations made as a result of the Royal Commission could see changes to the banking sector.
Financial misconduct, transparency and penalties for fees with no service have all come to light through the Banking Royal Commission.
But it was necessary so that we can now start to rebuild trust in the sector, and that's the most important thing.
The fight is still continuing for the survival of Row 8, with supporters petitioning to prevent state government legislation to delete the road reserve.
Without Row 8, it will continue to be forever used as rat runs through their local community.
The supporters of Row 8 believe it's up to WA Liberal Democrat MP Aaron Stonehouse to save the project.
Long-term infrastructure needs of the state is debatable, but removing it as an option is very short-sighted.
I will not recontest the seat of Curtin at the next election.
Well, I guess it had to happen eventually, but she's been such a fixture in Australian politics and in some ways quite central to Australian politics for so long.
Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met again here on Wednesday evening. Everything seemed to go on track, but all of a sudden there was a twist. The talks collapsed. We were told that there would be no signing ceremony of an agreement that was scheduled for early afternoon.
In the first 4 weeks of the school year, almost 1,000 students have been suspended from WA public schools for physical aggression.
I'm not sure that we can see that we'll see a decrease in bullying, unfortunately. What happens in our community is reflected in our young people and schools.
Students are concerned that it is becoming a bigger issue as each year passes, with not enough punishments being enforced.
I feel like they don't take it as seriously as they should.
We need to stop the bullying so we can keep progressing forward.
WA's youngest generation cheering on the state's Anzac veterans on a day reminding many about Australian soldiers' sacrifices during the horrors of war.
What Anzac did for Australia is bring us together as a nation.
We are making change here and now.
Inaction and complacency from the government is no longer an option. Students and young people are demanding urgent climate action for their futures.
We can take action out on the streets like we are today.
Bureaucratic. We've got 12 years to act. We've got to get our act together.
Political resistance will be the biggest hurdle worldwide in achieving a carbon deficit environment.
So what needs to be done, to shift governments is more than tweeting and blogging and being part of a Facebook group and flash mobbing or whatever it is that you want to do.
Scott Morrison and Bill Shorten have begun sweetening their promises, hitting the streets to win support for Australia's top job.
So, young people wanting jobs in Western Australia, the Liberal Party is the answer to your question.
It's very clear that for many young Australians, one of the defining issues of this election is to take real action on climate change.
A very lightning strategy. Do you believe that's going to work, Farley?
I may be here for 28 hours in this visit, but it's not my first and only visit to Western Australia. I've been here many times beforehand, and I will be here many times again.
I have always believed in miracles.
A miracle for the coalition following opinion polls.
We're predicting a Labor win, and it turns out we were wrong. The question we've got to ask ourselves is, why was that?
Now, I'm not interested in excuses. We got it wrong. People were confused or even frightened. by our policies or didn't trust us to implement them.
With unemployment still staying at around 6.3% in WA, there's no doubt that people are finding it hard to get a job. But what about the younger generation who are looking for work or more hours, who find themselves stuck in a miserable cycle of rejection and failure?
In May this year, WA's youth unemployment rate reached 14.1%.
From employers that there's roughly 200 people applying for even a simple job at like a fast food restaurant.
With a lack of employment, it leads to a lack of self-esteem, self-worth, poverty, disadvantage.
I talk to many young people, and the graduates coming out of university 5 or 6 years later are still struggling to find a job in that chosen profession.
As the debate rages around WA as to whether immigration takes away employment opportunities for the young, are we ignoring the threat hidden in plain sight?
Oh, there's no doubt automation takes more jobs than immigration. Absolutely no doubt at all.
How do you know that?
Well, because all the studies are showing this, that migration has an economically stimulatory effect.
We see professional services are going automation and entry-level jobs are disappearing too as well. So it's not just for low-end people, isn't it? For educated people as well. So you've called for boycott of those of automation. Is that more of an extreme measure?
That is an extreme measure, but we've seen boycotts.
You still stand by that?
We've seen boycotts before and it has worked. I take your mind back to the Montgomery bus boycotts, different set of circumstances. I admit that, but it did work. Maybe we've got to look at the ethics of this.
Okay, what about political experts who came onto our show on part 1 saying that successive government, both Labor and Liberal, absolutely ignore the interests of young people? What do you make of that?
Oh, I absolutely disagree with them.
The swift arrest of pro-democracy activists and lawmakers have failed to deter another wave of demonstrations which happened on Saturday. The situation was very tense indeed, with protesters firing petrol bombs and police retaliated with water cannons and tear gas. As you can see here, live rounds and pepper balls are found here in Causeway Bay.
In the written statement that was put out by the government in the Australian Financial Review, it explained that they will bounce back, they always do. But do you sort of think that Hong Kong's reputation in the world's eyes has been a little bit tarnished after 14 weeks of so many problems?
Oh yeah, I mean I don't think bouncing back is going to be that easy. In some ways, I think the momentum that the pro-democracy movement has acquired is going to make it very difficult to bounce back.
A recent livery spotting of a Chinese police vehicle around Perth
has increased suspicions and fear within the local Chinese community.
They are in fear at the moment, and they are worried they are being spied.
WA police spoke to the driver of the vehicle, who stated he purchased the decals online and placed them on his car as a joke. The man has since removed them from his vehicle.
As demonstrations in Hong Kong reached their 13th week, a fake support letter pretending to be WA police has been circulating this week.
Spread overnight from Chinese social media pages, officials state this letter is not from the WA police force.
They also further detailed that it is not common practice for WA police officers to comment on political matters, especially those occurring outside its jurisdiction.
So the work that you have to put into establishing truth is a little bit harder. But there will always be people trying to tell lies, and there will always be gullible people who will believe them.
Lisa Harvey is a change with historic significance. Ms Harvey took over the top job in the WA Liberal Party, a feat no woman has achieved before.
With your indulgence, I advise the House that earlier today I was elected unopposed as leader of the Parliamentary Liberal Party.
It's designed to stop people in pain, suffering at the end of their life, and now it's about to become a real option in WA.
Today brings us a vital step closer to developing progressive legislation that is compassionate and which is safe.
A report tabled in Parliament has proposed bringing voluntary assisted dying to the state.
Members, the results of the division are ayes 24, noes 11.
After weeks of debate and many long nights, the upper house has finally passed a voluntary assisted dying bill. Strong criticisms have levelled at Nick Gorin, accused of filibustering and obstructing the passage of the bill, with 400 odd amendments, and at Mark McGowan for his criticism of opponents of the bill. Although the final approvals are expected to be passed on Tuesday, it will be 18 months before the scheme is available to patients in WA.
Indigenous advocates have demanded fines be more comparable to income as the state government makes jail for fine defaulters a last resort under new reforms.
We are
endeavouring to separate out those who can pay but just will not pay.
We need to make sure that no one is jailed for being poor.
Murder charge is what Indigenous activists are calling for as Joyce Clark's body was laid to rest this week. The Deputy Chair of the Death in Custody Watch Commission WA, Mervyn Eads, says that there is a need to revisit the death of Miss Clark.
We need to ask that question because it's a very serious question, and the police involved in that should also be charged with murder, I say.
In a statement, WA Police says that the investigation is still ongoing. The calls come in the wake of murder charges being laid against a police constable in Alice Springs for the death in custody of 19-year-old man Kumanjai Walker.
The Chinese community in WA is in the spotlight, with the community's premier organisation, Chunghwa Association, electing its new leadership team for the next 2 years.
With its leaders strongly denying Chinese government's intervention.
You label the report as false. How is that not accurate?
This whole report, whatever they claim, has no evidence.
The Department of Fire and Emergency Services has issued an emergency bushfire warning for Yanchep. DFARS downgraded yesterday's fire to a watch and act, but a second fire flared up this afternoon, with DFARS issuing a warning to residents in an area bounded by Yanchep Beach Road, Splendid Park, Carroll Turn and Two Rocks Road. The threat has since extended to north of Yanchep Town Site, Breakwater Estate and Sea Tree Estate because of significant fire activity. Well, he's been there with you rain, hail and shine for the past 40 years. You may have heard of him before, but little do you know that Neil Bennett has just celebrated 40 years as a weatherman at the Bureau of Meteorology.
40 years as a weatherman, how does it make you feel?
Pretty old.
History was made following the miracle election win for the Morrison government, with the appointment of an Aboriginal MP taking up position as Indigenous Affairs Minister for the first time.
If I was able to travel back in time and tell you as a kid form that you're going to be the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, what would you think?
Unless you're a Time Lord, I would have said no way.
It's Monday evening at a house in Morley. A group of music lovers gathered for a performance that was truly special. At the age of 82, Isidoro Mazzella still has the ability to wow the audience with his Neapolitan tenor's voice. Isidoro may be one of the last surviving Neapolitan tenors, but on an average day he's a Perth pensioner, an average Joe in the community with an award-winning talent. He now hopes to pass on the authentic Neapolitan music knowledge to a new generation of opera singers.
Have a go, don't give up, and be the best you can. And they say you appreciate it.
What a year of news it was, and we can be sure there'll be more big stories as we look forward to the new year. And that's all for Western Perspective for this year. We'll be back again in 2020, but for the last time in 2019, it's back to you.
Thank you, Nelson. And that's our final weekly news and current affairs for 2019. Thank you so much for your viewership this year. On behalf of the WAMN News team, we wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we send love to those you love.
We look forward to seeing you again in the new year on the 19th of January 2020. Until then, please take care and good evening.
Good night.